What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Pack a Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. You can follow me on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL. Before I jump in today, I have some exciting news. We are going to be having some really fun guests coming up moving forward during the season. I'm happy to announce that both Peter Bukowski and Ty Dunn will be kind of off and on Thursdays moving forward. Ben Fennell will be joining me for Fridays during the season, and I'm hoping to have one more special guest lined up for Wednesdays in the near future as well. Still trying to finalize that, but could happen tomorrow, could still be a week, could not happen, but we'll see what happens there. But either way, very excited to have Peter Bukowski and Ty Dunn, as well as Ben Fennell, as some guests coming up. So definitely something to look forward to in the near future. So again, if you have not subscribed yet, make sure to do so. Let's first of all talk about today, though, that insane Monday Night Football game from last night. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is a Packers podcast, but man, this from Thursday to Monday was an insanely fun weekend of football, save for the most important game that there was for a Packer fan. We got to see, of course, the Vikings lose to the Bengals in the early game. The Lions lost to the 49ers, but actually made sort of a fun game of it. Then Sunday Night Football, the Bears get really sort of embarrassed, not as much as the Packers did, but embarrassed by the Rams. Thursday Night Football is an amazing game. Monday Night Football is an amazing game. And it was just this awesome weekend of football, save for the 3:30 slate of action, which, of course, was the Packers getting annihilated by who. Doesn't even matter anymore. We're moving on to week 2. We're on to Detroit, and that's what we're going to say from here on out. But what I want to go over today is concerns. What am I actually concerned about from what transpired, in that first game? And what am I not so concerned about? So that's what we're going to go over. Before we get there, we did have some injury news. It sounds like Darnell Savage, they're hopeful with the extra day of rest that he may be able to play on Monday Night Football. Remember, Vernon Scott still banged up, at least wasn't able to play this last game. That could leave Green Bay a little bit thin at safety. We'll see kind of what happens there, but that's going to definitely be something to keep an eye on this upcoming week. And then Josiah DeGuara in concussion protocol. We'll see if he's available to play on Monday. Of course, concussions, not anything to mess around with. And you do have you do have Dominique Daphne to fill into that position if you would so need. And he did a nice job really filling in for DeGuara when he was injured last season. So I don't think they're going to rush back to DeGuara anytime soon, especially with a concussion. Again, if he's ready to play, he's ready to play, but they certainly won't rush him. Darnell Savage, I think they would love him to be ready for Monday Night Football against the Lions. But let's go just one by one and review all sort of the things that were concerning from Sunday against the Saints and discuss whether or not they are really actually a concern moving forward. Maybe just at least a pause for concern, nothing or a major red flag that Green Bay is going to have to address at some point. Let's start with the quarterback. Let's start with Aaron Rodgers, because I know yesterday, as I was kind of going through my game recap, I didn't go over Aaron Rodgers that much. And obviously I mentioned the fact that basically all facets of everything was terrible. That includes, of course, Aaron Rodgers. He had a really bad game or awful game, whatever adjective you want to use, however you want to describe it. But the reason I didn't go too deep into Aaron Rodgers is simply because Aaron Rodgers has, well over a decade of success of being dominant in this league. Yes, it was an awful game. Yes, the optics were terrible coming off an offseason where he went basically scorched earth and wanted out of Green Bay and et cetera, et cetera. Not great in that regard, but I don't have any long-term concern with Aaron Rodgers for the remainder of this season. He was phenomenal in all of training camp. He looked like himself. I thought he had one of his best training camps, frankly. I think this was a one-off. Now, if this continues to happen and this is, we see this form of Aaron Rodgers where he's, making, uncharacteristic decisions and he's not throwing in rhythm and the offense just looks disjointed, yeah, we'll have plenty to talk about here on the Pack a Day podcast for the foreseeable future, but I don't foresee that being the case. I think Aaron will bounce back against Detroit. I think you will see this offense bounce back against Detroit and through the remainder of the season. It wouldn't even shock me to see Aaron Rodgers involved in the MVP conversation by the end of the season. That's certainly tough after a week 1 performance like that, but there is literally a ton of season left, still 16 games, and I believe Aaron Rodgers is going to be just fine. So zero level of concern at this point point with Aaron Rodgers. Was it a disappointing and really poor performance in week 1? It was, but I fully expect Aaron and this offense to right the ship moving forward. How about the running game? Any actual concern over the running game? I'm concerned that they abandoned the running game. I was a little bit concerned with the way that they, just kind of seemingly just kind of ran it up the middle. They didn't have, it didn't seem like there was anything dynamic about it, right? There was no, I don't know. It seemed very out of context for Matt LaFleur and company, their game plan. I don't even know that we can evaluate their game plan running the football because they got away from it so early, but I fully expect Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Kylan Hill to be able to run the ball this season. I think, especially once David Bakhtiari's back and you're able to, kind of upgrade the offensive line, hopefully as the season goes along, hopefully with no injuries, I think you'll see this running game get going, but they just need to run the football, right? And I think A.J. Dillon and the small chunks we did see, I thought he ran hard. I thought he ran well. So we'll see what that looks like moving forward. But as of today, I don't have any concern with the running game. They just need to make sure they have a little bit more of a concerted effort to stick with it, even if they get down early in a game. How about the offensive line? Concerns about the two rookies and Royce Newman and Josh Myers. Frankly, I think that game was about what I expected from the offensive line. It was, like I said, I think the Ravens defensive front beat the Packers offensive line if you were to weigh it out, but I don't think it was by much. I don't think that's why Green Bay lost the game. And I think with two rookies in there, you're going to have some shaky moments like that. And I think you just have to sort of weather the storm until they get a little bit more comfortable. I actually thought that both rookies played better than Lucas Patrick did at left guard at first glance. I'm definitely excited to hopefully get my hands on the all-22 tape and evaluate that further. But at this point, I don't have any major concerns with the O-line. I think, that was a very good front that they faced with Davenport and Cam Jordan. I thought the Saints did, a good job of bringing pressure sporadically, but not overdoing it. I thought they had a much better game plan this year than they had a season ago against Green Bay. So, yeah, I don't have major concerns with the O-line. I do think there's going to be some hiccups and snafus here and there. I think that's going to be expected, but I think they're going to be able to mostly weather the storm for these next handful of weeks. And as you get hopefully Bakhtiari back and Elton Jenkins, and then I think Myers, Newman, and of course Billy Turner, I think you're going to be much better suited for the remainder of the season and hopefully your playoff push. But even the interim, I think they have an offensive line right now that isn't going to lose them games. They may not be dominant up front to just be able to hey, we're going to run over everyone in front of us. And I think that Corey Linsley loss is definitely I think bigger than people thought it would be. But I think they're going to be just fine. And I think as Myers and Newman get more snaps under them, I think they'll settle down a little bit more. And I think you'll see that offensive line play better overall. And by the way, and I talked to Aaron Nagler about this on Monday as well, that offensive line had about the best game you could consider given the circumstances, right? In order to really start being able to run the football, you need to get into a little bit of a rhythm. They abandoned the run game so early. You want to start firing off the ball and dictating to the opposing defensive line. They never got an opportunity to do that. And then they were down by so much so early that now, and they were going so many empty formations, the defense is just teeing off. They don't have to worry about the run. It's just they're getting ready to pass rush from the word go, whether it was first down, second down, third down. That gives such an advantage to the opposing defensive front and pass rush. And I thought overall, given the fact that they did have that advantage and the fact that they didn't run the football, I thought the offensive line held up as about as good as could be expected, especially with two rookies on the offensive line. So no major concerns there. So notice on offense, quarterback, run game, offensive line, no major concerns at the moment. We'll see what happens in future weeks. Maybe that changes, but one game is not going to have me lose my confidence in this number one rated Packers offense from a season ago. I wholeheartedly believe they will be just fine moving forward. Let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive line. Yes, I am concerned. I have screamed from the mountaintops for more than 2 seasons, I think more than 3 seasons at this point, get Kenny Clark some help inside. You have put Dean Lowry and Tyler Lancaster next to Kenny Clark since the Mike McCarthy days. And to not upgrade that position next to Kenny Clark is insane. And that goes on the GM and Brian Gutekunst and his staff. It also, goes to the coaches of not being able to maybe develop these players better or get them ready to play on Sundays. This defensive line got completely taken off the ball and completely moved, especially early in the game. They fixed it a little bit in the third quarter. It was garbage time by that time anyway, but they just don't have the horses up front, especially next to Kenny Clark. And that's a major issue. And we'll see if maybe TJ Slaton and Jack Heflin can provide some better depth as the season goes along. You in the game, you saw Slaton have one play where he completely reset the line of scrimmage, which is not something that at this point, Dean Lowry or, really, Lancaster, Kingsley Keke, like they're not doing that. But you also see a couple plays where Slaton's on the ground, he's getting sealed off. Like, it's consistency with Slaton. And Heflin, of course, wasn't active. But, man, Kingsley Keke, Tyler Lancaster, Dean Lowry, just poor performances. And they just aren't holding up. That is a major concern. And I don't know, like they don't have the money to go out and spend on this position. That's concerning. Like the improvement's going to have to come within. And I don't know that I see that. And I still think that is going to be a flaw for this team. How about the linebackers? And I'm not talking about edge rushers here. I'm talking about the actual, Chris Barnes, Devondre Campbell, etc. I have some level of concern here. I think they can ultimately get to where they want to go with Campbell and Barnes and Oren Burks as the next guy up. But you look at the defenses that have given Green Bay trouble. You look at the good defenses around the league. You see a fast, instinctual, really good linebacker, whether it's Levante David and Devin White in Tampa. You saw Demario Davis for the Saints in this last game. It is such an important position. You look at, Pete Warner. You look at Darius Leonard. Like, these are really good inside linebackers that can play fast, instinctual football, and Green Bay hasn't had anything close to that. And you could see against the Saints the lack of quickness and the lack of speed at linebacker. Now, Campbell's a good athlete. Chris Barnes, I think, is a better athlete than he gets credit for, but they just don't have a guy like that. And it's not just speed, right? You can't put Henry Ruggs at linebacker. You have to have speed. You have to be able to hold up at the point of attack. You have to be able to play instinctual. And I get there's not that many guys like that around, but they got to figure out a way to be quicker and faster at that position and the ability to get sideline to sideline, the ability to cover, because right now that seems a soft spot on the team. So I think linebacker is going to be okay. I still question if you can get by with okay at linebacker in today's NFL. I think you need a little bit more speed and toughness in the middle. I think Green Bay's lacking there. And again, I would like to see a little bit more of Oren Burks because he has some of that. I'm hesitant because I know Burks has had some poor tape when he's been on the field, but he, in garbage time this last game, played well. In preseason, he played well. I would give him, I'm not saying like hand him the green dot on the helmet. I'm saying let's get him 10 snaps. Let's see what he can do and see if he can add some speed to that. So some level of concern. How about pass rush? I think it's tough to say. Z's a little bit banged up. You just went up against Teron Armstead and Ryan Ramczyk, which is arguably the best tackle duo in the NFL. I thought Preston Smith actually had a fairly nice game. I think Za'Darius, even injured, at least had the impact play. I know Rashawn Gary didn't finish plays, and that's what you need to see out of him. However, he did have a couple plays where he was close. Now, that's what we've seen out of Rashawn Gary, right? Close, and it's time to finish those. But I'm willing to see a bit more of this, and I think Kenny Clark can play better, but I have a small amount of concern because I think it needs to be better, but I'm willing to see what this looks like against not one of the best offensive lines, and hopefully Z a little bit healthier than he was this past game. So no major concern yet, but I'm sort of monitoring it, if you will. How about cornerback? Yeah, but I was concerned going into the season. Jair Alexander's great. They're not going to throw at him. They're going to throw at everyone else, right? And I think it's linebackers. I think it's like if you're an offensive coordinator, right? I always try to put myself in the opposing offensive coordinator's mind. If you've got your wide receivers, your tight ends, your running backs, and you're saying, all right, who on this Packers defense do we not want to target? It's Jair Alexander. Now, Adrian Amos is a good safety. He's not like a great cover guy. Darnell Savage, ups and downs as a safety. We'll see what it brings. I know Ben Fennell was not very impressed by his game on Sunday. I'm somebody I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on when I watch the game film. But neither are like phenomenal cover guys. Like, you're not concerned like, all right, Darnell Savage is on that guy, we can't throw that way. Or Adrian Amos is on that guy, we can't throw that way. Chandon Sullivan, not concerned. Kevin King, not concerned. Devondre Campbell, not concerned. Chris Barnes, not concerned. You're going to drop Preston Smith in coverage again. I'm not concerned. Same thing with Gary's. Like, who are you concerned about? Jair Alexander, and that's it. You can target anyone else. That's a problem. And that's why Green Bay is playing a lot of zone defense, which doesn't necessarily fit their skill set. I think Green Bay has some real soul searching to figure out how they can get off the field on third downs, how they can hold up better on coverage, because right now they don't look on the same page in zone. And again, even in man, I don't know that you're concerned over King or Sullivan or some of those guys. So they have some issues. This isn't just on Joe Barry or scheme. There's some personnel issues. So I have a lot of concern with the cornerback position. Am I concerned with Joe Barry? It's an awful first impression, but I'm certainly willing to give it more than one game to say, wow, this is terrible. Fire Joe Barry. Like, it's going to be a nightmare. Now, you can argue, listen, he's had stints before with other teams, which is true. And this first impression was not great, but I'm willing to give him more than one game to see what happens. And remember, it works both ways, right? People were ecstatic with how Mike Pettin looked over like the first 8 games of his career as a defensive coordinator. And then it just fell apart for the most part after that, right? So it might be that it takes 8 games for Joe Barry to really kick in, and then maybe he's great after that. It can work in a variety of different ways. I'm willing to give that a bit more time. Am I concerned about how the Packers play from behind? Yes. Right now they seem like a front-running team that plays very well when they are winning and awful when they are losing. They need to do better, and it is a very big concern of mine at this point to be able to continue to play on pace and in structure even when you're behind and not start to panic. And, in one token, they panic because they're trying to get a bunch of yards in one play and a touchdown in one play. On the flip side, I'd like to see a little bit more urgency from the team as a whole to still try to stay in it and get back in the game rather than just fold and lose by double digits. Am I concerned about them not showing up to games? Yeah, this is the 5th time in 15 road games that they have not shown up in any capacity. And my biggest concern there is that there's some big games there. Packers, Buccaneers last year in the regular season. Rodgers, Brady, everyone's hyped for that game. Green Bay doesn't show up. Packers, 49ers, NFC Championship, a chance to go to the Super Bowl. Packers don't show up. Opening day, Packers, Saints, 3 p.m. kickoff. Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, opening day. Packers don't show up. I don't have faith that if they're playing in the Super Bowl, all right, we're going to find out in the first quarter if they feel like playing this game. It is crazy right now. So yes, I have concern as to whether or not they're going to show up to games, which is insane to say, especially for a team that's been to back-to-back NFC championships and has as many leaders on this team as they do. And last but not least, am I concerned over the season? No, I'm not concerned over the season right now. All the concerns I just mentioned are all legitimate, but they're probably not going to get the 1 seed, right? They play the NFC West, the NFC West. They play the AFC North, 2 very tough divisions. The NFC North is going to get beat up on. The Vikings, the Bears, the Lions, I think they're all going to finish with below 500 records. I think the Packers win the division by at least 2 games, even after that brutal performance this last week. And with that being the case, with me believing that, I believe they win the North by 2 games. I believe they're not going to be in the discussion for a number 1 seed. It means they're going to have a home playoff game week 1, and then they're going to have to wait and see how they play and get ready for that going forward. The next 16 games is to figure out Joe Barry's defense and how they want to play and get everything right. This next 16 games is they have to win some games along the way, right? They need to probably win 10 games to clinch it fairly easily, right? Or 10, 11, but as long as they do that, this next 16 games is basically sort of their preseason, because their season is in all likelihood going to start in January and February. And we'll see how they do, or I should say in January, and we'll see if they can get to February, but that's what they're playing for. And they've got 16 games to figure this out, get on the right page, clinch the NFC North, get into the playoffs, and play the best football during this last dance run. We'll see. I know it's a little bit like Jim Mora, playoffs. You want to talk playoffs after that game? I get it, but I still expect them to be there, and I don't have concerns on this season right now because they got 16 games to improve things. That's going to do it for me today. Thank you for joining me. I'll be right back here tomorrow. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.